Good evening, everybody. It is June 13th, 2016, City of Owen Sound Council. I haven't said this in a while, and I keep forgetting, but if you're watching at home and want to follow our agenda, it's at www.owensound.ca, and then look for minutes and agendas in there. I note that Deputy Mayor Arlene Wright is still away. Hopefully she'll be back the next meeting. She's had knee surgery and is just starting to run laps around the dining room table, I'm told, but hasn't made it out through the door. I also want to take this opportunity in consideration of the events that have happened in our world in Orlando in the last couple of days, which has been pretty shocking. I want to take a moment this evening to say a few things. And I think all of council is in agreement with me. The murder of a person for any reason is a tragedy. The murder of 50 people under any pretense or motivation is a horrific attack on humanity. People should not be prosecuted or persecuted, for who they are or who they love, what they do, what they go home to, what color their skin is, where they live. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen in our North America. Owen Sound has historically been a safe haven for people ostracized elsewhere in the world. Today, I want to be clear that we stand with Orlando and the worldwide LGBT community. In coming weeks, I understand there will be an annual Pride festivals throughout the area. In light of this murderous rampage, I encourage people to attend one of these events and show the empathy and compassion that Owen Sound people are known for. Thank you. So declaration to move into regular meeting. We're in regular meeting. We're there already. Additional items. Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Mayor Boddy, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce this notice of motion tonight. To Mayor and members of Council, please accept this as notice of my intention to introduce a motion to rescind Resolution R 1605300013, which was adopted by City Council at its meeting on May 30th, 2016, insofar as it approved recommendation CS 160-518-005 as contained in the minutes of the May 18th, 2016 meeting of the Community Services Committee. Council Resolution 160530013 read as follows: that the minutes of the Community Services Committee meeting held on May 18th, 2016 be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved, with adding west to the road allowance mentioned in recommendation CS 160518003. Community Services Committee Resolution CS 160518005 was as follows: that in consideration of Staff Report CS 16042 and Bylaw 2002-135 and Bylaw 2009-36, respecting the lease and management agreement between the City of Owen Sound and Grey Bruce Health Services for Bethune House, Community Services Committee recommend Council approve a bylaw to authorize an extension of the agreement to December 31st, 2016, and that the TOM Director or Board Chair be requested to attend a committee meeting to outline their intentions for the building. Attached is a copy of the proposed motion to rescind Resolution R 160530013. Please provide direction as to whom the notice should be forwarded, in addition to the person's name below: Virginia Eichhorn, Director and Chief Curator, Tom Thompson Art Gallery; Linda Miles Gallinger, Chair, Tom Thompson Art Gallery Board of Directors; Grey Bruce Health Services, Owen Sound Hospital. And the text of the motion is as follows: whereas on May 30th, 2016, the Council of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound adopted Resolution R 160530013, which received the minutes of the Community Services Committee held on May 18th, 2016, and approved the recommendations contained therein. And whereas the recommendations in the May 18th, 2016 Community Services Committee included Resolution CS 160518005, which provided that in consideration of Staff Report CS 16042 and Bylaw 2009-36, respecting the lease and management agreement between the City of Owen Sound and Grey Bruce Health Services for Bethune House, Community Services Committee recommends City Council approve a bylaw to authorize an extension to the agreement to December 31st, 2016, and that the TOM director or board chair be requested to attend a committee meeting to outline their intentions for the building. And whereas it is appropriate to authorize a longer extension to December 31st, 2017 of the lease and management agreement between the City of Owen Sound and Grubers Health Services for Bethune House, also known as Rice House, pending further review of information on the requirements for additional space in this facility of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound rescind Resolution R 160530-013 related to the recommendation contained in CS 160518005. Be it further resolved that in consideration of Staff Report CS 16042 and Bylaw 2002-135 and Bylaw 2009-036 respecting the lease and management agreement between the City of Owen Sound and Grubers Health Services for Bethune House, Council approve a bylaw to authorize an extension of the agreement to December 31st, 2017.
Thank you. Other business? Anyone? Richard, you've got one other business that you're going to identify now, and we'll move it up later?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, I have actually a couple of items regarding the OSCVI.
Good, thank you. That in, Marion? Councillor
Thank you, Your
Kepke?
Worship. I have two items, one regarding ATVs on county roads and trails, and one regarding the seniors fair.
And Councillor Lemon?
Yes, Your Worship, I have one that has to do to a degree with the OFCVI, but also how the students there will be treated.
Thank you. Councillor Larry? No? No, it's Councillor McManaman.
Sorry, I had one about OSCVI and Westo as well, but perhaps it'll be dealt with when we talk about Councillor Thomas's motion.
Well, Councillor Lemon's maybe too, but we'll see. And I have, too, is going to report on the visit from our Federal Minister of Small Business and Tourism, and we'll have a deadline coming up that we'll need to think about for AMO with regard to delegations to ministers at that I want to talk about. Oh, staff, thank you. Yeah, I do that every time.
Thank you, Worship. I have minutes from the June 10th meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee for the City Hall accommodations and a report from Kristen Schreider, CS 16089, which was distributed to Council earlier today.
Thank you. Number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Anyone? Seeing none. Confirmation of minutes, please. Councillor Lemon, I think you've got them.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McManaman, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 30th, 2016, as printed, be adopted.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McManaman, that the minutes of the public meeting held May 30th, 2016, as printed, be adopted.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thanks. Go ahead.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Jim McManaman, that City Council now go into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thanks. And we're now in Committee of the Whole. We have no public meetings planned. We have 3 deputations under number 8 in the agenda that's planned. The first one is 8A, Anthony Fleming, Account Manager, Municipal and Stakeholder Relations with MPAC. Welcome. I'll get you to push that button on that microphone when you're ready to go so we can hear you. There we go. It's just... There we go. Perfect.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much for allowing us to present tonight. We just wanted to talk about the delivery of the 2016 assessment update. from Impact. Today, I have with me Brian Dean, the Manager of Valuation and Customer Relations for Grey County, sitting at the back, and he said he can't take questions. That's what he told me, so I'm just kidding. So the presentation is just on for residential taxes only at this point in time, and then we'll talk about the other partitions as I go through the presentation. Property assessment and property taxes. Probably read it from there. Property assessment and taxes are the product of an integrated system involving Impact, the provincial government, including the Assessment Review Board, and municipalities and Ontario taxpayers. While each has a distinct role and interest in the assessment and the taxation process, success of the system depends on all parties defining their responsibilities and working together effectively. Impact is responsible for determining the current value assessment of more than 5 million properties, with an estimated total of $2.2 trillion. The provincial government, the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing are the primary ministries responsible for setting the assessment and taxation legislation policies determining the education rates. Also, they are responsible for the Assessment Review Board. And also lastly, municipalities determine the revenue requirements and set the municipal tax rates and collect property taxes to pay for your municipal services, police, roads, waste, and parks and leisure. Ontario assessment cycle. Every 4 years, Impact updates the property assessment to reflect the legislation valuation date. For this year, the evaluation date for legislation is valuation date is January 1st, 2016. Every property owner in Ontario will receive a property assessment notice showing the estimated value of their property as of January 1st, 2016. The new assessment value will be used by municipalities for property taxation for the next 4 years from 2017 to the years 2020. And this slide just demonstrates a little bit of the properties that we assessed and where the $2.3 trillion come from. So a lot of properties. Just a little bit about the assessment update. Typically in the 2012 assessment update, we did that over a period of 1 year. We've been working very hard over the last 2 years to return a very good and stable roll. So the assessment notices have gone out, and they started in April. And you'll notice that as we go forward in time through the presentation, I'll denote on when the next assessment notices will go out. What we have done over the last couple of years, we've been very busy. We've been doing data collection and preparation for this assessment notice, or the assessment notices. As I mentioned earlier, Impact has completed more than sales investigations, data quality checks, and preparation for this year's assessment update and past reassessments. Across the province, we have updated more than 2.8 million data elements in Zone 5, which is our area, which stems from the Kawartha Lakes down to Innisfil, as far as north as Huntsville, over to Perry Sound, and into Grey and Bruce County. There's 290,000 data touch points. In the city of Owen Sound, we have a total of 4,179 data touch points for 7,955 residential units. Why is this important? It's important for accurate data results in an accurate current assessment. Some of the data touch points could be building permits, sales reviews, RFRs, process controls, taxi and vacancy applications, and so forth. Transparency and shared understanding. So for specific properties, we have 3 levels of transparency and understanding. We have level 1, a methodology guide. These guides can be found on our website at impact.ca for special purposes properties. These types of properties include food processing, farmlands, as well as retail properties and golf courses, just to name a few. Then secondly, the second level is we have market valuation reports. The market valuation reports explain how the valuation methodology has been applied to a group of properties. These reports provide relevant market data to inform about how key components were delivered for that particular property type. And then lastly, level 3, detailed valuation information and property level details will be available to owners and municipalities through aboutmyproperty.ca, and I'll get to about that in a little bit, as well as you can ask Impact for detailed reports. And then this just shows you how we've released the assessment notices to date. So we started releasing the assessment notices in April. And in the city of Owen Sound, the assessment notices went out on May the 24th. You'll see the farmlands be mailed out on October the 11th, and the multi-residential as well as the business properties will be mailed out on October the 18th. The current value assessments on the notice will serve as the basis again for the taxation years of 2017 to 2020. Now let's talk a little bit about the residential experience. So the residential experience, by now, all properties owners and taxpayers within the city of Owen Sound should have received their assessment notice by now. This is Impact's key touch point for property taxpayers and the property assessment notice. As a part of our commitment to enhance the residential taxpayer experience, we have redesigned the notice to incorporate simple explanation of property assessment and valuation process as assessment phase-ins. Enhancing and changes to the notice are based on feedback we received from residential taxpayers across Ontario, as well as consultation with the Minister of Finance. As you notice, the assessment notice, you'll have the person's name, and it also will have the actual issue date, and it does say in bold letters up in the top right-hand corner, it is a property assessment notice, not to be confused with the tax bill. Also, what they will change, because of the new Bill 144, residential property owners now have 120 days from the issue date of their property assessment notice to file a request for reconsideration. The RFR deadline for the residents of the City of Owen Sound is September 21st, 2016. The issue date and the RFR deadlines are included on the notice. So what we want to accomplish here is the early delivery of the assessment notice. By getting 120 days, we can get the information back so we can return a good and stable roll for 2017. Oops. Thank you. So on the assessment notice, what they will notice is they'll see right at the top their property assessment for 2016. They'll have some particular information on there. They'll have their actual roll number and About My Property. They'll have an access code. That's where they'll be able to go into aboutmyproperty.ca and set up their own user accounts, and I'll get into a little bit more of the data that they can view on there. As well as their property information, they'll show their current value assessment, their previous value assessment as of 2012, and the change between 2012 and 2016. Also in here, it'll show their phase-ins. So it'll just show year over year what their assessment will increase from 2017 to 2020. It'll display the contact information to contact Impact. And this next slide just reiterates what I mentioned before, is that the issue dates for the assessment notice was May 21st and September 21st is the RFR deadline. I just wanted to go a little bit about conservation farms and managed forests. October 11th, so it'll be 120 days from that point. So it'll be February 8th before they can do the deadline for their RFR. And the business properties will be issued October 18th, and the deadline for that is February the 15th. So on the back of the property assessment notice, what we've done is we've condensed it and we put a little bit more, we've used one piece of paper as opposed to four. So on the back of the property assessment notice, they can see property details, specifics. They can see how my property is assessed, the 5 major factors. Some of them are lot location, age of property, quality of construction, and their login information for aboutmyproperty.ca, and a little bit about the property assessment system. And how can I learn more about my assessments? I talked a little bit earlier about myproperty.ca. So this is where the citizens, the taxpayers, can go in and actually log into the system, and they can access their own data, be able to verify that, yes, we do have a garage on our property, yes, we do have a pool. They can verify all that information. And also from there, they can actually compare properties like theirs within the municipality or the city. So that if they wanted to say, well, mine is worth X amount of dollars and my neighbor's is X amount of dollars, then they can compare those two. And it also have sales data in there too, to see the latest trends within the municipality, or the city, I should say. And also they'll be able to see market trends. And I'll just get into the market trends here. So from the top of the screen, you'll be able to click on market trends. And this is throughout all of Ontario. It's like a Google search. You can go in there, just type in the city you want to inquire about. And then what it'll do there is it'll pop out a little graph. And I'll show you that at the end of the presentation, sorry. I had my slide deck messed up a little bit. So just for people that really can't use aboutmyproperty.ca, we have created a whole series of brochures. We've left them at the front desk with the municipality. The city, they are there. So it just talks a little bit about impact, understanding the property assessment notice, questions about impact, what do I do, and then also a gamut of other ones as far as right from condo farmlands and newly built properties. So these are all readily available. We've dropped them off at the front desk, and they've been there since the 24th. So taking care of assessment concerns. So most citizens, once they get their tax notice, they may say, well, I don't agree with my assessment notice. So the first thing they have to do is they have to ask themselves, can I have sold that property as on January 1st of 2016 for the assessed value? If the answer is yes, they just have to file that assessment notice and put it away for safekeeping. If the answer is no, they can go up to aboutmyproperty.ca. They'll be able to view up to 100 properties there. They'll also be able to save 24 liked properties like theirs, print off a report, and then do the comparables. And also, from there, if they feel that they're still not quite right and they have a few more questions, they can contact Impact. There's a 1-800 number. Contact us, and then we can further walk them through some scenarios. Or finally, if they feel that, yes, it's still an issue, I can do a request for reconsideration, and you can do that right online now. So you can get that information right there. And lastly, if all else fails, they can go to the Assessment Review Board and do an assessment review. Now, just contacting Impact, there's a couple of things that have changed since the last assessment notice. One is the Contact Customer Care Center. It used to be on the notice that you would just call the Owen Sound office or go there directly, but we went to a centralized area where everybody can be called the contact center. Reason being is that there's experts throughout all of Ontario, and the expert may not be in Owen Sound. It may be in London, for example, for farmlands. So they'll call there, and then they'll get the right person to talk to you over the phone. And online at Impact, you can still come and visit us over on 3rd Avenue. We're still open for business there. You can write Impact or fax us. And we can accommodate accessibility needs too as well. So lastly, I'll just get into just enhancing the municipal experience. So what we've done is we created a new software for the frontline workers as well as the treasurers and tax collectors, and this allows them to view real-time data to do assessment scenarios, just to see what's going on with the assessment as it's growing, as we're loading up into the database. So it really can be a good insight for any assessments that are at risk. And we've already gone out to Grey and Bruce counties and provided a lot of the training on Municipal Connect. One other thing we dropped off is a municipal toolkit, and just showed a bunch of information as far as social media information, changes, key messages. But I just want to really focus the attention just on a couple of things here, is that we have a YouTube site. So the citizens, to ratepayers, taxpayers, they can all go to our website, and there's a few there about how Impact assesses the data, how taxation works. A really cool little website, and the videos are about 2 to 3 minutes long. So it's very easy to follow along. So lastly, the market trends. And I just showed you the city of Owen Sound. So this is the market trends here. And I don't know if you can see it too well, but these are little bubbles. And under the bubbles, if you hover over your mouse, once you go up on the website, you'll be able to see the number of residential properties and so forth that make up that number of the assessment growth or decrease. So property values are up less than 1% in Owen Sound. Values for a typical home in Owen Sound are around $204,000. Condominium values in Owen Sound are at a $168,000. Waterfront properties are at $303,000. And I have some more data here just to share with you. So Owen Sound, the overall residential change from 2016 to 2017 is 0.1%. Single family residential is 0.1%. Condominiums went down a little bit at minus 1.7%. And the waterfront has increased to 3.2%. And we've included the County of Grey there, numbers just to compare as a whole. And then last slide. So this is just typically the assessment changes from 2012 to 2016. So the city of Owen Sound, its properties averages $204,000 for a single family home. Condos, $168,000. Waterfronts, $303,000. So we've seen a shift of an increase of about $1,000 for single families, condos, a decrease of about $4,000, and a waterfront property has increased about $31,000. Thank you very much. I tried to get under 10 minutes, but I think I might have went a little bit over.
Councillor Kepke?
Thank you very much for your presentation. MPAC has come a long way in trying to explain their process to the people, so I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
One question I had was, when you were doing your data collection, we know that the data from MPAC makes up the electors lists. Were you collecting also names and of people that were tenants to help make that list correct?
Yeah, we're in the
More correct?
Yeah, right now it's just evaluations, and maybe Brian might be able to elaborate on that a little bit, but.
We're not going out collecting the names. When we go and pick up a new house or data collection, most of the data collection is through permits, tax applications. We haven't been collecting our other methods through other departments that do, but from the valuation staff that are getting valuations, we're not collecting that.
So it's only the owners, so the tenants are not updated at all in any process?
Not in our evaluation process. There are other departments within our impact that are responsible for that. And there are a lot of restrictions on collecting a lot of that data now, and hence the problem with collecting forward.
Okay, thanks.
So what I can do, Marion, is I can actually get a more detailed response to you and then just
That
send it
would
off.
be great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, Anthony, if you can, I should get Brian to come to the microphone. If you can give a quick summary for people at home that wouldn't have heard that, just.
Oh, okay. Yeah, MPAC, currently we were just gathering data just on the just on the properties, the assessment. We weren't gathering any people data at this point in time. And there's other departments within the organization that gather that data.
Perfect. Any other questions? Councillor McManaman?
Sorry, just to restate it, if somebody disagrees with their assessment, what's the deadline?
It's February 20, May 20, February, September 21st. Thank you.
I'm
I
glad
got so
to
many
see,
numbers from all the different
I'm
areas.
glad to see Mr. Dean. He's never been afraid of a microphone before. And secondly, if they do disagree with it, they have till that date, and if they do, they can go online, or
they can call us, and then we can send them the forms. They can fill them out and then email them or fax them or mail them back to us.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or I just want to add to that, our location is at the Professional Center, Suite 212. For those who can't go online or a little afraid to go online, we're always open. You don't need an appointment. Come in and visit. We have staff on duty all the time from 8 till 4:30 every day. Well, through the week, not Saturday and Sunday. So feel free. We can either resolve the issue right then and there or direct them to file an RFR.
Good, thanks. So MPAC, mpac.ca online. If you're not online, go to the Professional Center, second floor, look for the door, which is easy, I think, to see from the top of the stairs. Or come to any municipal office, and there'll be pamphlets here that will give you the information with the telephone numbers and all the information.
That's correct, Mayor. Yes.
So I was talking to a guy on Saturday that his assessment had come down. He was a little disappointed, so I'm sure he's going to be protesting. Scott, does Councillor Craig, do you want to say anything?
Thank you very much, Mayor Body, and a great presentation. And you're probably faster than my notice of motion. But I have a quick question just on if an average assessed house value, sounds about $200,000, and this wouldn't be a question, but through you to our Director of Corporate Services, just to put it into real terms to an average household, if the council didn't increase the mill rate applied to that, that would be, and I think we're what, 1.14, 119 or something is the ratio, but approximately $22, $25 a year if the mill rate wasn't increased is what a resident would expect then in a tax increase.
Through you, Your Worship, it's difficult at this point to talk about how this will impact any shift in the burden of taxation until we have the complete picture with the business, farmland, and all of those other assessment classes. But certainly, a good baseline would be to look at what the average increase is for Owen Sound, which they have shown is under 1%, and then look at whether or not your property increased by more or less than that. So as long as your increase is consistent with the average, you shouldn't see a shift of the tax burden to your property. But if your increase is slightly higher than the average, then you might take on some more of that. But again, the county changes impact that, and so will all of the other tax classes as they come in.
Sure, thank you very much. And I was just using the example of the average household to illustrate it, so thanks.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
The next deposition is deputation. Too many deps. Mr. Chappell, welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor, and members of council. My name is Frank Chappell, and my son Jeff, and we have a property on 20th Street that is a storage facility, and I don't know whether you had an opportunity to receive that, Your Honor, which is a map.
It's worship. Don't make me an honor.
Don't make it more than you
That's
are?
way too responsible.
Oh, okay. Did,
We received your package. We wouldn't have any responding information from the city or from the staff.
oh,
We
okay.
received that.
And did that show the property on 20th Street and also 9th Avenue East?
Yeah, we have that, yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I'm here because of a decision council made about 12 years ago, and they implemented a recommendation from Gansby and Manorel that said that part of our property on 20th Street was going to be serviced from 9th Avenue East. And we've been in the process of trying to obtain permission to build a couple buildings, and we've been hampered because of the back and forth about servicing from 9th Avenue East onto the property on 20th Street. On 20th Street, we have a two-piece washroom, and we installed the services a few years ago. So what I'm here before you guys is to try and see if we can stick with our servicing on 20th Street and utilize that for the property that is not separated by the conservation area, and the land on 9th Avenue East will pay our proportion of whatever we have to pay for the servicing that's going to go along 9th Avenue East, and we'll have a proportionate share. So what's happened is we've been caught in sort of a mix of figuring out how to service it.
Okay. And are there questions from council? Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Chappell, I understand, read all your correspondence, and I know there's been a bit of a back and forth here. You might be aware your specific issue is coming to the Operations Committee next week. The June 23rd, I think, is the actual date. It's hoped that we can answer your specific question about the servicing on 9th Avenue East and your proportion of the share, your cost for that, at that meeting on the 23rd. After that, there's a council meeting the 27th. Assuming things go well on the 23rd, minutes will come forward on the 27th to council to discuss, I guess, that issue you talked about that was made by council 10 years ago on what your share of the cost would be. I think there's a revision to that, a new report, a new study's been done. I think or at least I hope by Monday the 27th, you may have a firm answer on what your cost, your share would be on 9th Avenue.
Okay.
That would, as far as your correspondence here, that I hope will answer your concerns and allow you to proceed with.
Yeah, because we're really not concerned about the cost we'll pay for 9th Avenue. We'd like to, because we're separated by the conservation and the ditch, it's basically two properties. So consequently, you can't drive one part to the other part. And so we've treated the one on 20th Street kind of as a separate, and we don't require any additional servicing because we only have a two-piece washroom, and we're only going to build storage facilities that don't require additional washrooms, and I appreciate that you're going to get an answer for 9th Avenue, and we'll pay our proportionate share.
No,
But we
and-
would like to try and get a building permit for 20th Street this year, if possible.
And certainly, I think we'd like that too, so
Would ya?
let's move forward.
Excellent.
We do, I know there's been some discussion around site plans, that needs to be finalized about severances.
Well, Pam's been very good in dealing with that
Right, so
part of it.
that's what I was-
not where the problem is.
After the 23rd meeting and then the 27th, if I've got my dates right, it's the Thursday and the following Monday. Hopefully, we can answer your question on 9th Avenue, and then you can follow through with staff on the site plan and on the severance for your property, and unless somebody has something different to say, I'm hopeful that will answer your question.
Well, thank you very much.
Good.
Any other questions?
Seeing none. That's good.
None?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity to see you guys.
Thank you. 8C C is Paulette. Is Paulette Parole, Tourism Marketing Coordinator for Saints and Sinners. Well, actually, for the city of Owen Sound, not, well, some of us are saints and some of us are sinners. I guess you're representing all of us.
The saints and the sinners, yes. Thank you, Your Worship and Council. We have a new initiative this year that we're calling Corkscrew City, the story of Owen Sound Saints and Sinners. About 4 years ago, it would have been the unknown, the untold story of Owen Sound Saints and Sinners. But this has been developing over the last basically 3 years into the broader Saints and Sinners initiative. So the Corkscrew City exhibit itself is an exhibit and a downtown walking tour that together tell the story of Owen Sound saints and sinners. The saints, of course, being the temperance movement, and the sinners being the ones that were still producing the alcohol or distributing the alcohol. The wet and dry forces that battled for and against prohibition for close to a century. And in researching this, it was amazing to realize it actually went back that far to the 1800s. And the Saints and Sinners initiative itself, the Corkscrew City tour is featured on the, sorry, I didn't have the leaflet here, the Saints and Sinners tour that I've left there, exactly, thank you. So this is the new Saints and Sinners tour. It has 17 breweries, wineries, and cideries on it, 3 museums, and the Corkscrew City tour in Owen Sound. And it's supported by funding also through RTO 7, which is Bruce Gray Simcoe, which is our regional tourism funding arm. The passport, so the passport was launched just yesterday. If those of you might have been lucky enough, that was an experience at Gray Roots Museum and Archives. I believe about 500 or 600 people attended. It was very well attended, very well received. There's already talk of doing another one next year, so it's been very successful. There were 12 producers at that, including our local Killannon Beer, and also Coffin Ridge Winery was there as well. And 3 years ago, what happened was Grey Roots Museum and Archives, they launched an exhibit called Saints and Sinners. And it was very successful from a museum point of view. But at that time, various tourism bodies were starting into experiential tourism. So at that point, we got funding from the RTO 7 to look at developing this as an experience. So Owen Sound was a part of that, along with Grey County Tourism and also Simcoe County Tourism. And what's evolved is through the Economic Development Department of Grey County. That's where we develop the tour now that involves the breweries and wineries, etc. So the Corkscrew City exhibit is a mobile pop-up exhibit that's now on display at Heritage Place Mall. I don't know if anybody's gone to see it yet, but we have some artifacts that are on loan from private collector Norm Plater. We've partnered with the mall itself, their marketing director. The Community Waterfront Heritage Center helped us set up the exhibit. And also the Ginger Press Bookstore has been the publisher has been a partner as well with the new Saints and Sinners book. And they have a display in the storefront downtown. So it ends up being 2 bookends, which is very nice. We get people out to the mall and downtown being aware of the tour. The exhibit will be on display till Thanksgiving, and we've arranged it that it can move to other locations in future. So hopefully it won't just be for 1 year. The walking tour itself, which is in this brochure here, and it's also online now at owensound.ca/play/Corkscrew City Tour. It features historic sites from the Prohibition era and points to related exhibits at Grey Roots and the mall as well. So we have 2 of the bars that are still in existence today. We have the church where the Women's Christian Temperance Union had their headquarters. We have the headquarters of the Wet Forces as well, which was the old post office, and a lot of other places in between. The other thing about the tour is we're promoting local restaurants that are serving Calandon Beer, Coffin Ridge Winery, and promoting those 2 places itself. So this is a copy of the tour that is also online and in your brochure there. You'll see there's 12 stops altogether, and you can walk to them. It's a walking tour mainly, but people can go to one or all of them. We are having an opening this coming Saturday at 11 o'clock at the mall. And then we're also having a guided tour the following Saturday, June 25th at 11 o'clock, starting at the Visitor Center on the waterfront. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions? Travis?
I hope you'll all get to take the tour, see the exhibit at the mall. We'll be doing a lot on the social media as well, and you can help promote that and pass it on.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I think we're down to public question period. If there's any questions, seeing none, maybe now's a good time. Go ahead.
Your Worship, I'd like to make a motion that we move information package item 11.8A forward. That's correspondence from the Minister of Education regarding the Blue Water District School Board accommodation review. And if council agrees, I'd also like to move forward my 2 other business items as they relate directly and indirectly to that.
So that was by motion. All in favor? Move it ahead? Just moving it ahead? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and opposed. Marion, so that carries. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Your Worship. We did receive a letter back from the Minister of Education inviting us to meet with her when she has time, which would be in August. I would like to note that there was a new Minister of Education appointed in Ontario today, and so I would like to make a motion that we immediately communicate with the new Minister of Education. Can I do this? I heard some noise. That we immediately communicate with the new Minister of Education asking for an urgent meeting regarding the OSCVI.
Okay, so there's the motion. Discussion? Councillor Lemon?
Well, I think it's most appropriate that we do this. It's interesting that now all of a sudden there's a new Minister of Education. One starts to wonder. I think we should ask for a meeting, and the concern of the community, as demonstrated by the petitions that have gone down to the Ombudsman, is proof that this is a very important issue to many people in Owen Sound, and also, of course, to the students and their families in particular, and to future students.
Okay, others? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just maybe for clarification, all we're asking for here is just to have a rush meeting with the minister. That's the same, similar to what we've already requested in the past.
Exact same that we've asked before. We've just got to change a person answering the mail. Well, probably not. We've got a change a person that will sign the mail that comes back, and we'll see if it makes a change in the response.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Kepke.
And what we'll be asking the minister will be to delay their changes to the schools? Is that what you're saying?
All we're asking for at this point is a meeting, and
But
the
what are you
subject
gonna ask?
matter. Well, I think last time we asked for a meeting, we wanted to discuss the OSCVI issue and ask for a delay of at least 1 year of the actions being taken by the Blue Water
Okay,
Board.
thanks.
You know, I think Councillor Kepke is making a point, because we moved that the last time with a big question mark on what it is. So is that an amendment or completion of your motion?
Yeah, I don't think I
so
need
we're-
to amend my own motion. I think we can just,
Just as long as we have the wording.
okay.
Just sort of
If it's
frames
a
it
friendly
in.
amendment,
Sure.
Councillor Thomas, to request a delay in
Okay.
the closing of
Yes,
OSC.
I accept that friendly amendment. Thank you.
From yourself, sort of.
Well,
It's a team building. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Next.
Secondly, and directly to the letter from the minister, I would like to move as well that we continue on with arranging to meet with the minister at the AMO conference, and that we, given the late date in August, that we still bring forward our questions about the process that's been followed at OSCVI, but that we go further and we frame our comments in the context of the goals of the Community Schools Alliance, which the city joined last year, which is an association of municipalities from across the province who have got some serious concerns with the Ministry of Education and the policies that it pursues in terms of school closures. The Alliance has actually asked the ministry to support a smart moratorium on school closings until a new method for school closings can be developed that includes municipal input.
And funding, isn't there more in there?
No.
It wasn't funding formula?
It may be further in, but I'm just going, their stated goal is to have the smart moratorium implemented.
Okay. So discussion, seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 3.
And last but not least, Councillors Lemon, McManaman, Greg and I had the opportunity to attend the public meeting that was organized by the Save OSCVI group the other night at the Legion. It was a great meeting, well put together with lots of good information, and some guests from other parts of the province who have been through exactly what Owen Sound is presently going through. Among the many good ideas that came up at the meeting was the suggestion of a legal challenge of the decision to close the OSCVI. And I was asked by show of hands of those in attendance to bring the issue forward to see whether the city might take action in terms of an injunction. So I'll tell you right now that I've struggled a little bit with this because I do know that an injunction has to identify a procedural error, and we've already had legal advice on that, and it can't be fought on the basis of community anger with a decision. Simply put, an injunction is about what happened, not the way that it made us feel about it. So the other thing, of course, is that any injunction application will require the city to be prepared to absorb a legal cost penalty in the event of a loss of the challenge. So in other words, our costs and some or all of the school board's legal costs if there's a finding against the city or whoever files an injunction. I will make a motion if we need that to get a discussion going, and I just look to council for advice on what we do about that.
Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Mayor Boddy, and that was a good meeting to be at last Wednesday. And I made some notes over the weekend to touch upon this. It's important to support people in the community who are passionate and committed to good causes, and council has stood and showed support for the kind of unannounced closing of OSCVI. And when this subject came up about a city-supported injunction, there was further research to do over the weekend, and I know we already had been provided legal insight in the issue, but I went a little further and was provided with some opinions from 3 commercial law firms through an associate. And I also reviewed myself a discussion paper that was called School Closures in Ontario, Who Has the Final Say? And it was published to the Canadian Journal of Educational Administration and Policy through the University of Manitoba. And it was a very good paper, spoke to the various orientations on boards, professional and political school boards. And as professional school boards, the school and superintendents, by virtue of expertise, are key decision makers, and the board serves as communication conduit to the public. This governance model is more likely to lead to protracted conflicts regarding closures. That sounds awful familiar. Further into the discussion paper is notations here. In the cases cited above, the courts did not demonstrate any willingness to step in and quash a board's closure decision simply because the consultation process was short, or its closure decision was unfair to the interest of its constituency, or it was injurious to the local economy. Nor did the courts question the fairness or reasonableness of the board's closure policies or that of the ministry regulations. There's other cases in here where Justice McEwen dismissed an application that petitioner sought a judicial review that will set aside a bylaw similar to this. And when I'm faced with that kind of information, at this point, I just have to say I can't support putting taxpayers' dollars into this. My support is, and my solidarity is there, but when I'm looking at this through the lens of using taxpayers' dollars, I can't support that.
Okay, thank you. Someone else had their hand down there. Councillor Dodd, did you have your hand up?
I did. Thank you, Your Worship. I won't repeat Scott or Councillor Gregg for most of his comments there. I believe we have used some taxpayer dollars to get a legal opinion on this matter, and came up with that answer that really we don't have any legal grounds to do anything. There was no, really no error in the way the procedure happened, whether we like it or not. It happened very quickly, and I think all of us are taken back by it, but when we take this any further, will the result change? Will the legal opinion change from the one we've already received?
Thank you. This way, Councillor Lemon.
Well, seems to be a conflict between the advice we were given and what was presented at the meeting, and that being that the closing of the OSCBI, up until the very late in the process, it was going to be 7 to 12 at both high schools, and then suddenly, after the last public meeting, it changed. So there was no public discussion. And what amazes me is municipalities are subject to appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board
For planning.
And there's a couple of other areas I believe we can have appeals on. But this is not subject to anyone's review, and I feel there may be justification to seek an injunction on the grounds that there was no public input to the final decision, which was a radical change. And I would love to know why all of a sudden, something like Paul's conversion on the road to Damascus, they suddenly changed.
Thank you. Others? Councillor Kepke?
I just wanted to explain my opposition to bringing this forward, and that is because other people who had scheduled a report on the agenda are still sitting in the audience while we're debating this. And this is a walk-on item that should have been dealt with after.
Fair enough. Okay. Councillor Thomas, what do you want to do?
Well, I guess if I can just wrap it up, if no one else has any other comments, I think that, it's clear, and I said this the other night, so forgive me for boring you with it. It's clear that the board followed to the letter the policy given to it by the ministry to make it easier to close schools. I think that the fight for we here at this table is not with the Blue Water District School Board any longer. It is with the Minister of Education and the Ministry of Education. And I think we've made two motions here tonight to proceed on that basis and to keep pursuing the issue. And from my perspective, I mean, we support you here at this table, and we're going to do what we can.
Thank you. Others? Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Would it be appropriate, I had an item about the OSCBI in that meeting the other night. Would it be appropriate to bring it up now as well?
We're on the topic, so I think so.
Okay. It was discussed at that meeting. There were some concerns, two specific concerns, and I have asked staff about this, but it'd be good to get it out publicly. At West Hill, portables have already gone up 2 or 3, I can't remember. And there was a concern raised about building permits, whether they've been issued, denied, what's exactly. So I would ask, I guess, the director, what's the issue of building permits currently at West Hill?
Thank you, Your Worship. The city did receive applications for building permits for, I believe, 3 portables to be located on the north side of the of West Hill. As I've noted for council, portables are a class or type of development that are specifically exempt from the site plan approval process. On that basis, staff confirmed that with the number of classrooms and the number of portables, or the amount of gross floor area in the gymnasium, that there was sufficient parking at the school to meet the requirements of the city zoning bylaw. The CBO has issued the permits for the portables, and they are in place on the property.
So that answers they did receive building permits, and they are, and as far as parking on site, under our current bylaw, they meet the standard. If at some future date they wanted to expand their parking, however they wanted to do that, they would have to come back to the city and get a site plan approved, is that correct?
Depending on the scale of a proposed expansion, it may or may not be subject to site plan control, but possibly.
The other question was asked, are there any building permits currently to renovate OSCVI to a public school that you're aware of?
Through Your Worship, I'm not aware of any, but I'm not also aware of every permit with building it. But I'm not aware, but I could check tomorrow and let council know.
Just so we're clear, because it was raised, as long as the school board follows all legal professional standards, the city would not be in a position to deny them a plumbing permit or a renovation permit of some sort. Is that, as long as they followed all the legal and professional standards, is that correct?
Through Your Worship, yes, that's correct.
And last question, around busing, because that's raised quite often too, that how would I put it? It seems to me that there will be a busing issue around West Hill come September of next year, or whatever, sorry, whatever it's called, the school. But as it stands right now, there's no obligation from the school board to share or have us vet their busing concerns. This is probably for Mr. Becking. Their busing issue, how they're dealing with busing. There's no obligation on them to share that with us prior to. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Mr. Becking.
Your Worship, the councillor is essentially correct. We have no basis on which to demand or request that the board submit such information. And in the absence of any formal proposal to expand the existing facility beyond its current capability, we have no basis to demand such a traffic analysis or anything like that.
Okay, and last question, I promise. So we have no basis to ask for it before. If there was an issue after the fact, then we would just have to deal with it through bylaw, our current bylaws, or perhaps our police services, or there'd be some other method if it became apparent there was a problem with busing and, backups on city streets and timing of lights and this type of thing, or upgrades of intersections. That would be an after the fact type of discussion for the city. Is that correct?
At that stage of the process, Your Worship, we would be very much in a responsive mode. We would respond to complaints, analyze situations as we found them, and bring forward recommendations to council for making adjustments to existing systems, so that and that would be considered normal growth and redistribution of growth within the community, so it would be paid for under the through the normal mechanisms of tax base and/or if it can be demonstrated that it's a growth-related project, then it would be through development charges.
So anyway, that's it, Your Worship. A number of those, I would say, factual city responsibility type questions were asked at that public meeting, and I I think we've asked them and answered them all
Going to
here.
go to Ms. Coulter, who may want to answer one more for you there.
Just through you, Your Worship, one of the other issues that has been raised is around barrier-free access. And again, the building code provides special provisions with respect to barrier-free access for portable classrooms, and it's not required, provided the main school building provides for accessibility.
Okay, a whole bunch of hands went up down here. Councilor O'Leary, I think I saw yours first. I'll just work my way down.
Can we not, through you, Your Worship, to Mr. Becking, can we not be proactive with that and find out, like, they must have numbers in terms of school buses. Like, I'm not a specialist, but I can see if we're going to have that many people or that many buses, we're going to have to do something, like keep buses off of 9th Street and have them only use the 10th Street entrance or something to that effect.
Certainly, council can choose to direct staff to carry out those kinds of studies and analyses. And we can request the information from the school board, but we cannot compel them to provide that information.
Or can we compel them thereafter where they're going to drive them?
We have the right to ask. They don't have to provide us with the information.
Well, I would love to see if they would give us that information.
We can certainly ask. There's no harm in doing so.
Councilor Kefke?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the Director of Community Services. If the school board were to make any changes to the tennis courts, say perhaps for parking, would they require any discussion or permits from the city to do so?
Through you, Your Worship, there is an agreement with the city with respect to the tennis courts, so we would have to factor that in. And also, again, we would look at the proposed development of the parking lot in the context of the site, determine whether or not site plan approval would be required, and bring that forward to council.
Councilor Lemon?
Part of what I was going to bring up has been mentioned briefly, and that pertains to the lack of accessibility to the classrooms. Those temporary buildings may be there for many, many, many years if they can't get the funding from the province, and the province is very slow at giving funding out right now, and will be for the foreseeable future. My concern is with the legislation which does not require portable classrooms to have accessibility. I understand there are, I believe, 3 temporary or this type of accommodation at St. Mary's School, and they were all made accessible. But our Blue Water Board, to me, it's an affront to persons with disabilities that they will not be able to access those classrooms. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a slap in the face to IOTA and legislation trying to encourage accessibility in the community. And now we've brought in these monstrosities from wherever, with very little windowing also, but that's another issue. But there's no accessible entrance to them. I went up and took a look at them after the meeting, after hearing about them already being there and not believing that they would be, but they are. And you've got sort of a little back porch on there with some fairly steep steps going down. And so if someone's in a wheelchair or has a walker, cane, or leg braces, are they going to be denied the education that goes on in those classrooms? This is an abomination to civil rights.
I think you already answered that as far as our control of that goes. Okay. So, does that cover it?
Well, I'm wondering if we shouldn't make, I'll make a motion that we request to change the building code not to exempt portable classrooms from accessibility. I think that's in the building code. I don't know whether it's an IOTA where the change would have to be. I leave that to staff to determine. But that's my motion. I've seen portable classrooms at schools for years and years and years. And they're not really that portable. I mean, if you're there 2 or 3 years, that's affecting a lot of students. And I feel it's an image that I don't want.
I'll get you to explain your motion, because I'm not sure I understand it.
And my motion is that the provincial, or excuse me, my motion is that staff find out who would have to change the legislation. Would it be under IOTA, or would it be under the National Building Code to not exempt portable classrooms from accessible standards?
So, okay, your motion is just to get the information?
Get the info of which group is responsible, and at that point, then send them a letter saying, we don't agree with this.
Why don't we just keep it simple?
Okay, let's have a staff report first as to which is the best group to approach on this, and then we can go from there.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? We call the question. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. That carries. Thank you. And then we'll see what happens when the report comes back. Okay, if we can move on. It's 5 after 8. We're at number 10. So, oh, go ahead.
Could we bring forward the, I think Councillor Kepke was perhaps right. Could we bring forward the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Board Management Report next?
Yes, that's 11A1. Sorry, if you want to come up, Virginia or whoever, Linda, whoever's presenting. So I was looking for that under deputations and didn't see it there. So it comes up as a verbal report further down, and I missed that. Go ahead. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you. I find myself here once again. Mayor Boddy and councillors and city staff. On behalf of the board of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery, thank you for the opportunity to respond to some of the areas of concern around the Rice House. As you're probably aware, the original purchase price of the Rice House was $170,000. The down payment of $38,000 was made with funds that were left over from the gallery's 1988 expansion campaign. The remaining $132,000 was debentured by the city over a 10-year period. I think with great foresight, board members and community members saw the long-term potential of the Rice House for the use of the gallery. A past chair and current board member, Neil Devlin, is here with me tonight and will be pleased to answer any questions that you may have about the original purpose of the purchase of the Rice House. We are not aware of any other capital campaign monies or funding that may have been invested in the Rice House. We're just not aware. Originally, the gallery received the rental income from the Rice House. Later, the house was provided to the hospital board for residency of medical staff during the recruitment campaign, and you'll all remember that. This process was managed with full cooperation of our staff and staff of the hospital. 2 years ago, during a routine audit by the Canadian Heritage, we were given notice that we needed to provide a plan for expansion of our storage capabilities, or we would need to stop bringing new works into the collection. Also in 2014, we received notice from our insurer that any art stored below grade would not be covered in the event of a calamity involving water damage. This affects all museums insured through the Canadian Museum Association policy. For these reasons, we need to move as much of the collection as possible above ground level to meet the standards required through the Cultural Property A designation and to meet insurability requirements. In addition to the demands of the collection, the footprint of the gallery is at maximum capacity. Staff work in cramped conditions. And yes, we are a victim of our success. There is simply not a square inch of the gallery that is currently not being utilized. The Tom Thompson Art Foundation has received a $50,000 grant from the federal government to cover the costs of preparation of staff workstations at the Rice House, the necessary work to the current administration area, and the storage equipment that will house the collection. The cost of the utilities for the Rice House will be handled within our budget. We believe that we can adjust, and if necessary, fundraise to cover the additional costs, which we do not anticipate to be onerous. We are actively pursuing a new site, which will reflect the stature of the collection, provide for growth of the collection, and be an economic driver in the city. However, completion and occupancy of any site is at least 3, possibly 4 years away. So, to sum up, the original intention for the purchase of the Rice House was for the gallery. We can afford both the capital costs and the operating costs of the Rice House. We need appropriate and adequate space for our staff. But most importantly, as set out in the loan agreement which City Council approved in principle in January, we have agreed that the gallery will conserve the Owen Sound collection as a record of cultural heritage and carry this out according to accepted professional museological standards, and we agreed to provide for the proper care and maintenance of the Owen Sound collection, your collection, our collection. When I was appointed to the city, by the city, to the Board of Management, I wasn't really sure I was going to accept the appointment, to be quite honest. I don't know if you and Ian even, if I've even told you this story. I had applied to get involved in the city, set my application in, and got a nice letter back that I'd been appointed to the board of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. I know nothing of art, nada. What I do have is a reverence for the talent that creates the pieces. So I had a face-to-face with our chief curator and director, and I had a ton of questions. I used up a lot of her time that day. And as Virginia talked, I began to realize what an accomplishment this city has achieved. I remember saying to her, it seems to me that we have a national treasure here. And I had lived in Owen Sound since I was 18 years old, and I didn't realize it. So I accepted your appointment. I went to my first board meeting, and in that meeting, the topic of discussion was, how do we expand? That same topic has been discussed and covered in many previous board meetings. As you know, we do have a plan to expand. But until we move into our new location, wherever that may be within the city, we need to resolve our current issues. We need more space for our staff. We need to move the collection above grade, or as much of the collection as we can above grade. We have the funding to make the capital investment. We can handle the additional operation costs. I respectfully request that we be allowed to access the Rice House as our needs dictate.
Thank you. Questions, discussion? Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Linda, for coming and giving that great presentation. I think that was a very good background on both the building and the needs of what the future of that building and our current art gallery building is. I think one of the big things we also need to remember, too, is that until the incorporation actually goes forward, the art gallery is still a department of the City of Owen Sound. We need to treat staff the same way we would treat them in any other public building. We treat them the same way that we're treating our staff that are here in City Hall, and their working conditions are very important. One of the other comments there was that no matter what happens with the future of the gallery, whether it comes incorporated, it's a 3 to 4 year time span before you could ever go anywhere.
Yeah.
So my question would be, if you can't move staff to the Rice House, is there room?
Where we are?
Yeah.
I could offer you a tour.
We've all, I think that's a fair comment, because we've all done the tour, and we've all seen the working conditions of the staff in that building,
isn't room.
and the vault space, how full it is. And I think the biggest thing that we need to remember is our job is to protect the assets of our future generations. We're very fortunate that we have an art gallery and art collection that we do have in this city. We're very fortunate compared to many other municipalities who would love to be in our position. And here we are debating about whether or not we should be moving the artwork upstairs to protect it.
Yes.
Protecting it for the future generations of our community. I guess for me, I'm glad to hear your background on it. I'm glad to hear that, that there is a need for the expansion of the office space, and because without moving that gallery work and the artwork up to the upper floor and moving the staff into the Rice House, we have a big issue on our hands, and we have a big issue about the future of the city of Owen Sound with our art collection.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Lemon.
Well, one of the things, it's really not an expansion of staff space, it's just a transference of staff space from one building to another. But the other thing is, the fact we can't get insurance bothers me. But think of what would happen if water did get into that basement. We'd be losing not only our heritage, but a lot of Canadian heritage. And I really feel this is an issue that we have to resolve in favor of the art gallery at this point, because we have to protect the collection. And we also have to, I mean, the Rice House is ideal because it's close to the gallery. And if there's something that has to be dealt with, staff can go outside and around the corner and be there. But if they were across the city, it could take them and waste a lot of time going from one location to another. So I think it's the best solution. And hopefully this can all go ahead. And my congratulations on getting that grant.
And Councilor Larry, I think you had your hand up.
Thanks, Linda, for your presentation. Can you tell me where you're at right now with incorporating?
We're very close. We've been working very closely with the city manager and our chair of our transition committee, and we are, I think it's fair to say, we're dotting I's and crossing T's. Being optimistic here. We're very close, very close.
Good. Others? Councilor Gregg?
Just a quick question, and nobody's denying the fact that there's a specific need to get the art up and have it go in where the staff is presently. But is there, and Councillor Dodd mentioned this, right now the art gallery is a department of the city. Is there, and there may be a decision here tonight further on in the council meeting regarding the future of this building moving forward. Is there a possibility that the staff from the art gallery, during that duration of time that staff from the City Hall are relocated, could work alongside City Hall staff during that relocation for that period of 1 year?
Okay, I'll probably ask Virginia to give some thought to adding to my answer. I'm going to give you my viewpoint. I spend a lot of time at the gallery. When I go in, I'm usually there all day. I go in for meetings, and I'm just booked all day for meetings. What I see is that staff there are wearing many hats. Okay, they're not just doing one job. Staff are bouncing multiple balls, and from what I see, I don't see how they could do their job and really be productive. Now, that's just the board members looking at, the world as I see unfolding. But I'm going to ask Virginia to speak to that, as she is responsible for staff.
Sorry. And just for clarification, Councillor Gregg, do you mean that we would be sharing, we would have people from City Hall at Rice House as well, or?
No, not at all. Because the space requirements to rent per square footage can be a lot cheaper because of economy of scale. So when City Hall staff are relocated from here to another location, that then lends itself to an opportunity for a cost-effective measure for the art gallery to move their administrative staff out of those offices alongside City Hall staff where they would go.
Right. It's, again, for security purposes and just for the nature of the activities that occur in the building, staff needs to be either on-site or very close by.
And is there the possibility to work with the city manager then on where staff are going that would keep them within a certain proximity to the art gallery, or there's really no proximity that's established yet?
Really, we should be on-site. So sort of being over at the Rice House, which is adjacent, is about as far away as we could be.
Councilor McManaman, get you to wrap it up.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to thank the chair and Mr. Devlin for attending and volunteering, because let's not forget that key part of the discussion. I would just point out this matter's been discussed twice at Community Services, passed twice at Community Services, passed by Council already. There is a notice of motion tonight, which is everyone's right to bring up, but Council has given their decision on this. I guess if they choose to reverse it on June 27th, we'll go then. But I would hope that by June 27th, you'll have a final answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, if we can go back to 10A. Section 10 is correspondence received for which direction of council is required. A letter from Mayor Barfoot, Township of Georgian Bluffs. Want to cover that, Wayne?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just by coincidence, I was in discussion today with our other local municipality, wondering about possibly extending additional water services to that municipality as well. In light of that request, as well as Georgian Bluffs' letter tonight, I suggest to council perhaps a report from myself to council on the ramifications, not only to the water user in the city of Owen Sound, but also the perhaps ramifications on the taxpayer as well might help council moving ahead with Georgian Bluffs' request. So that's my recommendation this evening, Your Worships.
So your other note was from Meaford then, or that's the only other one that's next?
The only
to us?
other one we have abutting us, Your
Okay,
Worship.
so we've got two neighbors wanting our water. Okay, Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't know if this will be for the Director of Community Services or maybe Mr. Becking. In our official plan, we have made a comment about extending our water services past our boundaries. And could you just remind council and the viewers of what that actually is in the official plan?
Ms. Coulter, the official plan.
Sorry, Your Worship, I wanted to make sure I have it verbatim for you. So Section 622 deals with water and sanitary sewage treatment. Section 6226 says, where the existing municipal potable water and sewage treatment system for the city serves lands outside the municipal boundary, the city shall not permit new connections to the said municipal water and sewage systems except in accordance with an agreement between the city and any or all of the property owners and municipality within which the property is located, establishing appropriate conditions which may include but are not limited to the following. Where municipal water and sewer services are to be extended beyond the city's current limits, boundary adjustments shall be encouraged that correspond with areas that can be serviced by the capacity of these services. Partial services shall not be extended beyond the limits of the city except to address failed services identified in a formal proposal from the adjacent municipality. There's some additional wording on partial services. In considering whether to permit new connections to the city's water or sewage system, development and land use patterns that would hinder the efficient expansion or development of the city shall not be permitted. Notwithstanding this section or the Municipal Act or other similar legislation where an existing municipal service outside the city limit extends past a property that is not connected to the service, the city shall be under no obligation to permit connection except in accordance with the requirements of this section.
That's perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. I guess the other question I have would be, and on provincial requirements, now if we were to extend it, provincial planning requirements, does that mean that we have to put out, if we're going to do water, we would have to do sewer as well?
Just in general, Your Worship, the Planning Act, the provincial policy statement discourages partial services, which means water without sewer, sewer without water. Certainly, it has provisions in the provincial policy statement around water if there's failed services. But usually they want water with sewer to go hand in hand.
Perfect, thank you. I guess the reason I'm going with those questions were just more or less along the lines of the City of Owen Sound, even when we did our development charges, one of the things that we recognize that we have an advantage on or against our surrounding municipalities is our hard surfaces of water. And I guess that's one of the things, I have no problem having a discussion moving forward with a discussion about that, but there would have to be something in that conversation that's a little bit more than just doubling our water rates. A couple $100 or doubling our water rates really will mean less commercial development in our city. That's one of the competitive advantages we have, having those services. If you open it up, extend it out, what is there going to be an incentive to come back to the City of Owen Sound? So that'd be just my only concern. I have no problem allowing you to speak on behalf of council. But those are my concerns, that if we were to be doing that, but I won't go any further.
Okay, Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, thank you, Worship. Those are excellent comments, Councillor Dodd. I think since we've received a second request just today from Meaford, also to extend water, and I believe this would be the first type of discussion, perhaps formally, that this council would have had with our neighbors on this matter. I think it would be prudent to ask for a report back on just laying out all the groundwork. What exactly we're talking, we've heard from Ms. Coulter about the official plan, the provincial policy statement. It talks about water and sewer. That has been not well received by our neighbors in the past. We need to talk about our development charges. Exactly right. We had our development charge holiday to try and encourage development within the city. Our existing, how many vacant lots do we have in the city right now that are serviced? How many are we talking about having come online with the RCA place and the Red Hawk development across from the hospital? So, we'd have to have, well over 1,000 lots either available or coming online. And, so what would a discussion like this, how would it impact that? We've long been, the city has, for probably, I don't know, a long time has had a stance that urban style development should be on urban style services. So either way, I think it's interesting that they have a proposal for us. I'd love to hear what their proposal is, but I think we need the groundwork too. To Mr. Ritchie, would a report be available, do you think, by June 27th, the next council meeting? Or is that too optimistic?
I could certainly have it by then, Your Worship.
Then I would move that we ask for a report back from staff on the issue of extending services to our neighbors. Maybe just kind of leave it as a general statement and
information. Okay, thank you.
More information. Thank you.
There is going to go Councillor Larry had his hand up. Councillor Lemon thereafter.
I don't suppose there's any problem sitting down to talk, just to hear what they have to say. But my first thought is, this is a huge discussion, like a huge animal. And I'd like to see Georgian Bluffs just sit down and with a little piece of negotiation for user fees before we even get to water. I mean, it's such a simple thing, and they couldn't get that done. Why move on to water when you can't get the other done? But, I think we should still sit down and talk. I'd love to hear what they had to say.
Councillor Lemon.
Well, I think that it's most appropriate. My first question is staff aware what Georgian Bluffs has in mind?
Through Your Worship, officially, no. I haven't seen the proposal officially. We've had no official discussions, so at this point officially, no.
Okay, because that was nicely said. Councillor Dodd raised a very important point. Double water rates do not cut it. There would have to be, and I'm thinking of when we had the Adasha annexation up on the West Hill. We looked after servicing an area for Georgian Bluffs, but there was an agreement that we would annex that area, which is, I think, entirely built out with about, 30 odd homes there. And there has to be a win-win situation, both for ourselves and for Georgian Bluffs. But we would be fools not to talk to them and find out exactly what's on the table. We might be surprised.
Thank you, Councillor. Didn't demote you, sorry. Wayne?
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, Councillor Lemon, I had the same thinking, to be honest with you, when we made the agreement with Georgian Bluffs in that case, but more particularly with Leith, with what we refer to as the Leith agreement with Meaford. I thought the safety for the own sound ratepayer was in the capping of the services. We allowed 165. That's what they asked for. We had other agreements in that as well. The City of Owen Sound certainly completely fulfilled their part of the bargain, as did Meaford. But apparently that capping is now not really what they would like to do. So I hesitate to say, and this is why the full report, an agreement can be extended, can be added to, and unfortunately sometimes for the ratepayer of Owen Sound, we continue to do these things not to their benefit but to their detriment. We are in a competitive game. We're neighbors, we're friendly neighbors, we're cousins in the same upper tier. However, for certain aspects, we are competitors. And I think council and the ratepayer of Owen Sound needs to fully understand exactly in this case what that means. And with that, I think council could move ahead to meet with both of our neighbors to see what we can do working ahead. But it's complicated, and yet it's very simple.
Councilor Gregg, did you want to finish it up, and then I'm going to call the question?
I would.
It's now 8:30, and we've got a long way to go.
Gladly, thanks, Mayor Barry. I just want to say any successful negotiation doesn't create losers, rather mutual benefits are agreed to both sides. We don't even know what the proposal is. All they're asking is to meet the mayor, deputy mayor, and the CAO, and you won't get anywhere if you don't talk to people. So I couldn't be more supportive of going out to talk to them. Maybe perhaps they want to give us a Sunset Strip to McDonald's. We don't know. So we can't read too much into it. They're just asking to talk. So let's talk. Open the discussion.
Okay, I'm going to call the question, which was Councilor McManaman's motion to get a report back. All in favor? That is carried. Good, thank you. We're at 11A2, which is report from Director of Corporate Services with regard to Canada 150.
Your Worship, as a matter of logistics for this report, I wonder if we could deal with the minutes and the accommodation report prior to this one, since they tie together. We really need to.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. I don't even know.
Okay,
what
so
to
the
talk about
additional
anymore.
items of the minutes of the ad hoc committee and the additional item of the report from the manager of property on the ad hoc committee, they need to be dealt with prior to this particular report because they tie together. So there was two
Gotcha.
additional
Okay,
items
now I
on the
remember,
table.
Now I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Thanks.
if you can help me out, what am I calling? Is it on our agenda even?
There
or
are
these
two
just
additional items,
additional items?
and
These were
I
Pam's
don't know who
additional
you would like
items?
to go first.
Yeah,
The
okay,
minutes
Pam,
or
if you
the-
want to go ahead.
Kristen Schreider, the manager of property, is going to speak to the report and perhaps the minutes briefly, and perhaps Councillor O'Leary, who's the chair of that committee, will also.
You know what, we're getting really complicated here, throwing stuff all over the place, so.
The report is a result of the minutes, so they should.
Right, I should probably
Okay,
do
so-
this. It just,
Go ahead,
if
Brian, if you want
that's
to hold
okay,
on.
Your Worship, I'll just give you my little blurb on the ad hoc committee from our meeting last Wednesday. We are recommending council go with option B, which includes a price tag of $8.3 million. We have excluded the rotunda, the green roof, and the solar panels. One of the biggest reasons for option B was to have everyone working under one roof, as well as sufficient storage. Right now, developers meeting with planning at City Hall, then they have to go to the Works Department to meet with engineering. If engineering needs to pull drawings, they need to drive to the Bayshore Community Center to get their drawings. One change that we did make from the original plan that council was given in the first place was to put the mechanical room in the basement below finance, combined with storage. That room is approximately 3,500 square feet. And of note, there's a 7% contingency overall and a 10% costing contingency. And just to remind people at home why we're doing this renovation, I'll just go over a small list here. The electrical and mechanical is failing beyond repair. The windows are leaking, there's water getting behind the brick. There's no insulation on the outside walls of the building. We have asbestos and mold in the building. There's not enough room at City Hall for all of our staff. There's no room for storage. Staff drive to the Bayshore Community Center 3 to 5 times per week to get drawings. And of note, I just want to mention option A, which was less money, does not address the exterior. Choosing option B assures the shell of the building will be good for the next 50 to 60 years. And just to mention option C, that would add another floor to the City Hall, but it also cost us another $1 million. And just in addition to that, the heat's maybe been turned up a little bit. Now I think the Ministry of Labor is involved wanting to know about the mold in our building. So it's certainly not becoming critical, but close. Oh, yes, there's one more. We did reduce the budget line. We reduced it by $50,000 for furniture.
And B option is to dig out the sand room that was completed under this part of the building, but they put the sand back in 1964. It's to remove the sand and gravel from there to make that as a storage area, correct?
Correct. And the footings are already there. We just have to get the dirt out of it, and that's where the mechanical room and storage will be. With that, I'll turn things over to Kristen.
Anybody got any questions for Brian to start off with? No? Okay, Kristen, thank you. We want a minute for reminding.
Thank you for the summary. I might not even have to go over a lot of my report tonight, so thank you. So thanks for the opportunity to present this report tonight as well. The support of the ad hoc committee and the fellow staff have been great through the conceptual design phase of this project. It's a really good first project for me to get under my belt in the first 6 months here with the City of Owen Sound. We recommend that in consideration of staff report CS 1689 respecting the City Hall Accommodations Ad Hoc Committee, recommendation City Hall Council receives the report and approves the option B for the renovation of the Owen Sound City Hall. 2, direct staff to negotiate the extension of contract with Congat's Architect. And 3, request a report in 2 weeks with the next steps and timelines. Congat's Architects made a presentation to City Council at May the 2nd, accompanied by a report by the City Manager requesting approval for option B for the renovations to City Hall. City Council passed a bylaw at that meeting, 2016-62, to reinstate the City Hall Accommodations Ad Hoc Committee to simplify and bring back a recommendation to Council. The ad hoc committee has met 3 times since May the 2nd. Representative from Congat's Architect, Alar and Adam, have attended 2 of the meetings and were available by phone for the 3rd meeting. A few highlights of the meetings. At the May 17th meeting, committee approved the recommendation to proceed with the geotechnical engineer subsurface imaging investigation, which is the verification of the footings in the unexcavated basement, and also to carry out the designated substance survey, and that's to assist with the air quality investigation and also for pre-construction requirements for the renovation. The imaging report and the test pits that were done in the basement confirm that the crawl space is suitable for the excavation and conversion into storage and archive functional space. Unfortunately, the results of the designated substance survey is expected later this week. As requested by the committee, Congat's Architect provided an alternative layout for option B, which is attached in your packages, which Councillor O'Leary explained was relocating the mechanical and electrical rooms into the excavated basement area. And this just allows for more functionality and flexibility to that lower level. City Hall Accommodations Ad Hoc Committee carried out 3 motions at June 10th meeting, and those minutes are included tonight for approval. I'll just go through the 3 motions. City Hall Accommodations Ad Hoc Committee carried the 3 following motions. 1, that City Hall Accommodations Ad Hoc Committee recommend Council approve the City Hall renovation option B to include relocating Engineer Services Division back to City Hall location, and that the renovation exclude the green roof, solar panels, and modifications to the Council Chambers lantern, and 2, the furniture budget line be reduced by $50,000. Motion number 2, that in consideration of staff report FIN 1629 respecting Canada 150 Construction Infrastructure Program, the City Hall Accommodations Ad Hoc Committee recommends City Council approves a submission of application requesting funding for the community atrium. And number 3, that City Hall Accommodations Ad Hoc Committee requests Council extend the committee's mandate through the life of the City Hall renovation project. For financial and budget implications, the total cost of the project is $8,374,898. On May the 2nd, the The report, the bottom line of the project was just over $8.4 million, so there's a reduction of about $75,000 to $80,000. And as Councillor Leary stated, we removed the restoration of the lantern here in council chambers, and also the reduction of the furniture budget from $50,000. The communications strategy throughout the project to utilize the frequently asked questions feature on the City of Owen Sound webpage, and also that if the request to have the ad hoc committee mandate extended through the duration of the project, then communication through specified meeting dates, meeting minutes, and presentations, if required, would be communicated. So any questions at this point for, I guess, myself or the ad hoc committee or city staff?
Some questions? Any? Councillor Lemon?
Just one. I find it very amusing when you say the elevator is in fair condition, being a person who is forced to use it. I believe its condition is a lot worse than fair.
Thank you. Councillor Gregg?
Just one quick question. Thanks, Mayor Bai. At this point in time, is there anything that would preclude local contractors from bidding on this job whatsoever? Nothing at this time? Just wanted to
No,
clarify
anybody
that.
can
Okay.
make an offer. Travis?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not sure if you touched on this or not. Maybe it should be directed through you, Your Worship, to the Director of Corporate Services about just how will this project be paid for? Sorry.
Through your worship, we were recommending that the final the final capital cost would be debentured after applying some of the component to the water rates, given that engineering and those services would then be housed here. And as noted in the report, the expectation would be that that debenture would come onto our operating, we would start making payments in 2020. And that there is enough room, given our current debt load, that if we don't have any other new debt, and we kind of reserve that space as debt matures between now and then, with that space created, we would be able to absorb this new debenture principal and interest without having an impact on the overall tax levy.
Okay. Councillor Larry, I don't know what...
Okay, I think if there's no further questions, just to go in order, we should move that we approve the minutes.
Do you want to do May 24th first?
Oh,
We'll do them in three here. Go ahead.
okay, yeah, we'll move May 24th first.
So moving approval of the minutes of May 24th. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thanks. Next one is June 10th that we have here in our hand.
And I would move that as well.
Oh, go ahead.
It's for a recorded vote.
On? Okay. So I'm going to call the vote, and then we'll go with recorded vote after that. All in favor? Okay, that is carried.
Councillor Dodd,
In favor?
Councillor Gregg,
In favor?
Councillor Kepke,
In favor?
Councillor Lemon,
In favor.
Councillor McManaman,
In favor.
Councillor O'Leary,
In favor.
Councillor Thomas,
In favor?
and Mayor Body.
In favor?
All in favor, no opposed. Motion carried.
Thank you. Now there's recommendations on the report.
Okay, now I'll move the recommendation and the report that approves option B for the renovations of the Owen Sound City Hall. Number 2, direct staff to negotiate the extension of a contract with Congat's Architects. And number 3, request a report in 2 weeks with next steps and timelines.
Discussion? Seeing none, going to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, now I think I'm at 11A2, if I may. Canada 150 Community Infrastructure. So from Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report is in reference to submitting an application for the Canada 150 Community Infrastructure Program. This is a $150 million program that was launched in 2015. It's a federal program, but it's being administered by provincial agencies across the country. This is the second intake, and $44.4 million is currently being made available for Southern Ontario. And the applications are being evaluated, and ultimately funds will be delivered by the organization FedDev Ontario. Eligible projects may receive up to $1 million per project at approximately 50 or one-thirds funding. So basically, projects up to $2 million would receive 50% funding. A resolution from Council is required in order to support the application. The report goes through eligibility for the grant. As a municipality, we are an eligible recipient. Eligible projects must fall under a category, as noted in the application, be open for use of the public and not limited to private membership, and be substantially complete by March 31st, 2018. Projects must be not enhancement so much as rehabilitation of existing assets. So new assets would not qualify under this program. And projects must fall under the categories, for example, community centers, cultural centers, parks and trails, libraries, recreational facilities, and other community infrastructure that is for public benefit. They give some examples of eligible projects, including enhancements to municipal facilities, and then a few that are ineligible, such as parking lots, administrative, medical, or social service projects, and components of facilities where usage by the public is limited. Funding, as I mentioned, is up to $1 million, and it can be 1/2 to 1/3 of the total project cost. The assessment process will look at project readiness, so being able to complete the project by the March 31st, 2018 deadline, the scope of the project, the extent to which other funding is leveraged, so they hint that if you were to ask for 1/3 over 1/2 funding, that you may be preferred, the extent to which the project supports a clean growth economy, and perhaps one of the more important ones here would be a link to Canada's 150th anniversary. So some project that celebrates our Canadian heritage. Incrementality, applicants are required to attest that the application would be for a project that wouldn't necessarily be achieved as quickly if it were not for the grant application. There were several projects that staff evaluated as part of this program, and the first appendix to the report is sort of the evaluation template that we used for some of the projects. We considered the City Hall renovation, and just a component of that being what is proposed as the community atrium just outside of Council Chambers, the new accessible entrance, and the accessible elevator. Other projects included the Harrison Park splash pad, Harrison Park pool, some retrofitting to the Bayshore Community Center, the Bayshore Community Center and Regional Rec Center parking lots, the farmers market orientation of the deck and accessible washrooms, the cemetery chapel, the splash pad washroom, the CN rail station, and the Harrison Park roadway. So a few of those would not be eligible. Some of those are new assets and would not be addressing an existing asset. Some of them were specifically excluded under the program, and that's all noted in the template that's included as an appendix to this report. Upon reviewing each of the proposed projects and where they do or do not meet the eligibility criteria, the community atrium, as part of the overall City Hall renovation, scored the highest and is the project that staff is recommending that Council submit as part of the application. And in order to tie that project back to our local and Canadian heritage to meet the criteria of the grant, staff suggests that Council consider naming that space in recognition of an iconic Canadian. In order to sort of look at who that might be, we wanted to take the opportunity to recognize OSCVI's heritage in the city, a topic that is currently in the hearts and minds of many of our local residents and students, and clearly on your minds this evening as it's come up in tonight's agenda. We looked at many notable students that have been enrolled at OSCVI over the years, considered names like Norman Bethune, Billy Bishop, and William Campbell. The person the report recommends honoring is Agnes MacPhail, who is Canada's first female member to be elected to the Canadian House of Commons. That was in 1921 in the federal election. MacPhail was also a student at OSCVI prior to the V being added, actually at OSCI in 1906, prior to the addition of vocational in 1924. There is attached to this report as well the city's policy for naming of buildings and rooms therein. So the overall budget implications of this would be total cost for those components of the project of $900,000, and a total grant amount being applied for is half of that, or $450,000. And should this grant be approved, it would reduce the annual debenture payment associated with the overall project by about $30,000 a year.
Oh, were you done?
I'm done.
Questions? Councillor Lemon?
Some terrific points brought, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, K comes before L.
I know, we're both young and
Yeah,
You don't
right.
have as much patience.
Same age around there. Anyways, sorry about that. The report really touches on a lot of really good points, and I'm so glad that this has come up and come forward as an opportunity for us. And I particularly am in total agreement about naming the room Agnes MacPhail. And so I would like to move approval of the report.
Okay, further discussion? Oh, Councillor Lemon?
Yeah, well, someone has already moved what I was about to move. And no, I don't remember her, Jim. Just thought I would point that out. But one of the things that I was wondering, could we include the elevator in that? Because that's the entrance, will be the entranceway to MacPhail Hall.
Through your worship, as noted in the report, the elevator is included as part of that project.
Oh, is it? So that comes out of the budget for the rest of the building?
Exactly.
Okay, that's great. I think this is an ideal thing, and Agnes MacPhail should be properly honored because this area has a long history in terms of women's rights, which actually started here with the founding of the WCTU.
If they won't put her on the $20 bill, we will. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Number 3 under 11A is report from Community Emergency Management Coordinator with regard to our emergency management update post-exercise. Anybody want to do that one?
Certainly, Your Worship. As you know, we conducted the annual emergency exercise, and our EMCO, I believe, is the title, is just giving council a background on exactly the analysis from that. A few items were noted in the comments from the participants, and I know many of council was there, as well as our backup staff. There was noticed a need for a backup system, alternate location for our phone system, as well as the servers. I need to determine which staff are priority call-ins, and the system to do that, as well as the systems we use. For whatever reason, some people in attendance thought the exercise should last longer. I'm not sure just who that was, and I'd like to know their names, Your Worship. I need to come up with a staff notification system. Again, that was certainly something came up during the interview, who would know when to come in and when not to. And as well, certainly there was discussion of a permanent emergency operations center, and we will be bringing reports forward on those to council at future dates.
Okay. Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. My one question was here on the analysis in one part of the need for a backup system, or need for a backup system / alternate location for our computer servers. I thought we already had that.
Prior to that meeting, I did as well, Your Worship. So certainly our IT manager is going to give us further information on that. But I was also, I think we have a system. I think it was how long it was going to take for it to boot. I was under the impression prior to that we'd be able to literally move from this building to that location and be operational. Apparently, as I recall, it was going to be 24 hours. I'd like to see how we can perhaps improve on that. That's my understanding, as I recall.
Okay. I was going to move the recommendation, but Okay, then I'll just move the recommendation.
Which is to accept the report?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Councillor Kepton?
Just wondering if the first point doesn't really attend to maybe more the Shortel phone system, because I think that was brought up several times. If the phones were down, we'd be cooked. So,
Okay, good to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, it's down to number 4, report from community planner with regard to site plan approval for 595 9th Avenue East.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, this is an application for site plan approval for the expansion of the Grey County Administration Building. So the subject property is about 12 acres in size, located at the southeast corner of 9th Avenue and 6th Street East. Grey County is intending to expand the existing main administration building, so there'll be a new 2-story addition on the front of that building, a new main entrance addition on the east or back of the building. There would be an elimination of that through traffic between 9th Avenue and 6th Street. The vehicular access from 9th Avenue would provide access to a small parking area dedicated to the POA. The vehicular entrance at 6th would actually be relocated further east to where their previous location is, and probably of significant interest to a lot of people, a new sidewalk proposed along 9th Avenue, as well as a new sidewalk on 6th Street, and the demolition of the POA once the rest of the construction is complete. G&B House will continue and share the west entrance on 9th Avenue. So they've submitted a lot of information in support of the application. The property is designated institutional in our official plan, which permits public uses, including this type of government office. The property is zoned institutional and subject to the conditions recommended. The site meets the site and building requirements. In terms of the landscape plan, there are a number of trees that are to be removed, and our policy does encourage the replanting of 2 trees, and we've recommended to the county a couple of places where trees may be appropriate, and that is to create a nice strong street edge and also create a buffer between them and an adjacent property. In terms of parking area, they provide a total of 219 spaces, including 7 barrier-free, which meets the requirements of the zoning bylaw and AOTA requirements. One of the recommendations from Accessibility Committee was to move the one existing single barrier-free space that is basically at the more private entrance to the POA court. And in talking to Grey County staff and their team there, we understand that that is specifically designated for an individual, and they would prefer to keep that space there. So we've provided for that in the recommendations. The report's been reviewed, or the proposal's been reviewed by Public Works and Engineering, and subject to the provision of some minor modification to the site servicing plans, the dedication of 3-meter widening along 6th and 5 along 9th, and the site triangle, and the payment of the engineering review fee. They're supporting the application. We would note that we're recommending to council that we enter into a site plan agreement, but we would encourage council to waive the requirement for a security given the public nature of the use proposed. So the recommendation is that council grant approval for site plan approval, subject to the 7 conditions outlined, and staff are recommending that you waive the requirement for the security, and that you would authorize a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan agreement.
Any questions? Councillor O'Leary?
Do they pay development fees on that?
The way the development charges bylaw is structured, actually, this is a type of development that would be exempt from development charges, but all other fees, building permits, planning, engineering fees would apply to this project.
Because there's a process.
I thought we only waived residential.
The bylaw has certain types of development. For example, any projects by Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing, as well as by the County of Grey. The school board would be another one where council waived that. I can double check that tomorrow, but that's my.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
You're going to move the recommendation?
That's what I thought, and I'm going to move the recommendation.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? That is carried. That's good. I'm glad we can trust those county people that they won't run away and don't need the deposit. 11B is consent agenda items.
Your worship, on the consent agenda this evening, there are 3 reports from the facilities booking coordinator, the Grey Bruce Kennel and Obedience Club, Harrison Park Annual Dog Show, August 2 to 4, 2016, the 5th Annual Tom McCartney Memorial Slow Pitch Tournament, Duncan McClellan Ballpark, July 22 to 24, 2016, Georgian Bay Folk Society 41st Summer Folk Music and Craft Festival, Kelso Beach, August 18 to 21, request to amend hours of licensed area. There are planning notices from other municipalities where no report is triggered. There are minutes of boards and committees, Public Library Board, April 28th, Police Services Board, April 28th, Drinking Water Source Protection Committee, March 18th. There is correspondence received, which is presented for the information of council. The listing is at 11B8 on the agenda. You've already dealt with the correspondence from the minister in that package. There was one business license issued and a hawker peddler license. The business license was to Crystal Heineman Moulton for a mobile food business license to operate Fired Up at Grilled in Action, and to the Concert Factory for a hawkers and peddlers license for Summertime Blues at Kelso, June 24, 25, and 26.
Good. Thank you. If I can have, go ahead, Councillor Kepke.
I would move receipt and approval of the various items on the consent agenda.
Okay, and all in favor? That is carried. Thanks. We're 11C, minutes of boards and committees for approvals. We've got minutes of Accessibility Advisory Committee from May 30th, 2016. Sir? Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. I'm overheating up here. Do you want to do library?
Yeah, I'll keep it really short, Your Worship.
I think everybody's probably overheating if it's me.
From the library board minutes, one thing of note, membership was up in April to 11,657 people. Otherwise, library business was more or less business as usual. One thing I would like to draw council's attention to from the information package is the letter outlining the fact that we are due now for our five-year review of the 10-year Union Library Agreement. And just so you know what that looks like, we will be meeting with the Meaford Library Board next week on June 23rd to discuss their contract with us. They are not a full partner in the agreement. They're a contract municipality, and they're presently undergoing a service review, much the same as we are, and would just like to have some discussions regarding their library contract. Georgian Bluffs and Chatsworth and the City of Owen Sound, however, will meet in September to discuss the five-year review.
Good. Thank you. Now, a couple of weeks ago, you weren't here, and we had a report that came from the library, and it was an annual report?
Yes, and I don't have that information with
No, I
me
didn't
tonight.
expect you. I'm wondering, Ms. Stobo, if we can have that put on the next agenda, because you weren't here, so we didn't cover it.
Sure.
It's something important and a chance to present it, whether you or Tim wants to present it.
Okay.
But we can add that to a future. Thank you. Owen Sound Police Services Board, Councilor Larry.
Thank you, Your Worship. This will be even quicker. As you've noticed, there is no reports with the minutes. Next Monday night is our first ever, I think, joint meeting with the police services.
Maybe you had one before.
Whereby you will get lots of reports, I'm sure, and we look forward to that. So that's all I have on that.
Yeah, and I know the chief is planning to do some of the reports that we've seen already. At our meetings over there, we're starting to do more public stuff, so a lot more presentation for anyone, including media, if they wanted to come, a lot more information that's worthwhile for them to be there. Next Monday night, definitely, there'll be some reports that'll be worth seeing, so. Can Brian go first? Go
Sorry, just while you're talking about the media, we did change our format with the Police Services Board. Our last meeting, our public meeting, started at 9 and finished at like 11:20. So it's a lot more interesting than it was. So I just thought I'd let you know. Thanks.
And Councillor McManaman? What, your question was, is it really more interesting? Is that?
The question was, these minutes don't talk about the going in camera, out of camera, but that's the next minutes we get, I imagine. That's where we'll, because this one doesn't show any in camera.
Right, we did have that discussion, but this meeting is one previous to that.
Fair enough.
So
Thank you.
that will be on the next set of minutes.
Good, thank you. Any questions for, I guess that was them. Now we're down to 11C, which is minutes of accessibility. Councillor Gregg, you presenting those?
I can present those. It was a straightforward meeting, and as the director, Pam Coulter, demonstrated tonight or mentioned, the only issue is the site plan being evaluated by the committee. And one of the comments indeed was the barrier-free parking space and the movement of it for the Justice of the Peace. And as the director mentioned tonight, the Justice of the Peace has their own requirements in place. So they've altered it a little bit, but that was the only issue for accessibility. And glad to see the sidewalk connectivity along 6th Street and 9th Avenue moving forward. So with that, I'd ask for acceptance.
So to move to approve the minutes? Yeah, all in favor? That is carried. Thanks. Minutes from, I guess we don't have to do that, we already did it. Minutes from Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee from May 24th.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. We did have a discussion at the last meeting about the Communitech Leadership Conference in Waterloo, which featured inventor and futurist Ray Kurzweil. He's the Director of Engineering at Google, and he actually has an unlimited budget to develop artificial intelligence. So he's quite an interesting guy, and he's got some really interesting things to say. One of the things that our Chamber of Commerce took special note of was his prediction, and his accuracy rating is apparently 86% for his future predictions. He has predicted that the face of retail sales, as we know it, will change over the next 2 decades, to the point that, with the exception of small niche-oriented shops, most people will buy their things online, and most of the things they buy online will be created by 3D printers. Manufacturing, as we know it now, will completely be revolutionized by the 3D printer. So interesting words, and something to sort of keep in the back of our minds as we move forward. And with that note, a direct connection to the Downtown Revitalization Study, which we kicked off this past Friday, and that'll take place throughout the downtown over the next year, and will give us a good snapshot of what's going on and what could be going on in our downtown core in Owen Sound. And with that, Your Worship, I'll move acceptance of those minutes.
And really good turnout at that downtown meeting, which was really good to see. Go ahead.
Just in the minutes, I note that Canada 150, Owen Sound 160, they're looking at hosting a job fair, perhaps, at that time, since there will be hopefully lots of people during the homecoming, so to speak, here. I'm hoping that perhaps someone from Economic Development will come to our public meeting and get on the ribbon effect of our events taking place through 2017.
Well, thank you, Councillor Kepke. It is in my calendar, and actually we're going a little beyond a job fair. Part of what we'd like to do is try to start creating a catalog of former Owen Sound residents who maybe went away to school and didn't ever return, and we'd like to create a directory and start trying to entice them back to the community, either asking them what they would require to be in place to come back here and do business, or through things like our Downtown Revitalization Study, which can identify opportunities in the community, trying to put that out there to bring people who are quite familiar with Owen Sound back, because I think it's always easier to bring someone back who's familiar with the community than to try and attract somebody brand new.
So that came out of 2007. We did that, Now That You're Home, Why Don't You Stay? And we collected a lot of data, but didn't necessarily use it as well as we wanted to, but great opportunity. Minutes of operations. And we have to vote on that. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks.
Thank you, Worship. I was the acting chair in the place of Deputy Mayor Wright, who's out with an injury, I guess we'd say. The first part of this meeting dealt with the public meeting for the on-street parking revisions in the vicinity of the Bayshore Community Center. We discussed the proposed no parking zones in that area, road widths and concerns for people parking on both sides during major events, and improved sight lines and sight triangles around entrances at the Bayshore. Small turnout, I guess you'd say. There was a couple of residents who were concerned with some of our parking. We're actually, though, in favor of restricting parking further, I think, is a fair assessment of what they said. We also had the Unsound Attack there, who gave their concerns. One of the constant themes was about enforcement. No matter what happens, enforcement will be a large part of the issue. So those comments were all taken, discussed. Community services, the committee will be discussing looking at parking on the grounds of the Bayshore. This was to deal with outside the Bayshore property. Anyway, all those comments and suggestions will be brought back in a report to the June 23rd operations meeting, and then on to council for consideration. We had another Blue Communities update from Liz Zetlin. As you know, there was a number of items that we have discussed over the last year. They are bringing forward a request on the community banning, or the city banning bottled water, and we talked about doing that in June of 2017. In the lead up to the city's contract with Pepsi throughout our facilities expires at the end of 2017. So that was their discussion point. We're going to have a speed transition zone on 16th Street through 20th Avenue East, basically a 60-kilometer zone. It's currently 80 from roughly 18th Avenue to 20th Avenue. A concern was brought forward to staff about downtown garbage containers and it being used by residents as their regular garbage. Staff had brought forward a suggestion. Right now, downtown garbage in the downtown receptacles is picked up twice a week. An option is to have it done daily, 5 days a week, but it was going to cost approximately $14,000 a year to have that done. Committee decided to take no action on that item and asked Councillor Leary to bring the whole report to the DIA for their discussion and consideration. We had a discussion about transit, and approximately 30 stops this year are being upgraded to accessibility standards. As we upgrade them, they must be accessible, and it's approximately 30 stops are being done this year. I would ask the item on the Blue Communities Implementation Plan, item 8D. The committee had many discussions. There was a lot of information there. We did approve the implementation plan as we amended it. Unfortunately, that amended plan isn't attached to the minutes for tonight. It's not exactly a pressing issue, and I would ask that I'll move these minutes, but that we just receive item 8D, not approve it, until such time at the next meeting we'll bring you the actual report. Again, there's nothing, I don't think, too earth-shattering there, but if council is going to approve the amended plan, they should know exactly what the amended plan is. So if you could note that, the recording secretary could note that, just to receiving that on approving it. We had an update on the water and wastewater, or the wastewater treatment plant. We are slightly behind schedule. It's hoped that over the summer months we can get back on schedule. There is, but things are proceeding well at this point, other than slightly behind schedule. Just one other comment. I believe, the committee praised city staff for the implementation of the multi-purpose trail along 3rd Avenue East, and thought it was an excellent. Our policies call for bike lanes on all major roads. It was very difficult to do that on 3rd Avenue. This is probably the next best thing. In fact, it might even be better than bike lanes on the road. Multi-purpose trail right beside it. Anyway, it was praised at the committee as well. With that, Your Worship, I'll move acceptance of those minutes with the just receiving the Blue Communities Implementation Plan until we actually receive the plan.
Question, Councillor Lemon.
Yes, the speed transition zone. Why? And where did this idea come from?
Currently, that area is an 80-kilometer zone with a traffic signal in it. We had originally tried to get that to be a 50-kilometer zone, a regular city street. I'm talking the area about near Heritage Grove, right in front of Heritage Grove, more or less. We had asked for 50 kilometers. The ministry turned down that request. Didn't feel it warranted a 50-kilometer zone, even though we felt it was in a urban community, not a, further out, of course, it would be 80. So I guess they've sort of sawed it off and said that would be a 60-kilometer transition zone. So we'll go from 80 outside the city, entering the city, becoming 60, and then at 18th Avenue, it would go down to 50.
Okay, Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to mention that we are looking into that with the DIA, and we're currently polling all the DIA members. I've got about a dozen responses already, and just looking for ideas on what we're going to do with garbage downtown. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. Oh, sorry,
I had a
the
question.
other council, O'Leary or Lemon or somebody down there. Go ahead, Mary.
The monkey in the middle.
Oh, no, I wouldn't admit to
A
that.
rose between two thorns.
That's it. Question to the Director of Operations. Traveling down 10th Street, westerly direction, the bottom of the hill, turning left onto 5th, I believe it is, was that a prohibited turn approved? Or because nothing's happened there yet?
Your Worship, Council did approve that change. However, 10th Street, as you're aware, is a highway connecting link, and therefore we have to have Ministry of Transportation of Ontario approval prior to implementation. I can tell you that staff have been working on the design. We've managed to find some bits and pieces, shall I say, in the yard that will be suitable for the installation. And I believe we quoted council something like a $15,000 cost to implement, and we will be able to do that for considerably less as a result. So it's in works. We just have to wait for the bits and pieces to fall into place.
Do you have any anticipated time? People are asking when that change is going to take place.
Right now, the matter is in the hands of the ministry, and I can't speak for their processes. We are in contact with them on a regular basis, and we'll get it through as quickly as we can.
Councillor McManaman.
Sorry, I did forget one major part about the blue communities. The committee, they did ask us to consider placing tenant arrears, water arrears bills on the taxes of the landlord. They felt that was a fairer system. That was the request. The committee decided to take no action on that item. I just wanted to raise that because it was a major point of discussion at the meeting.
Okay. Just heard someone else say something. No? Yeah? We're okay? Now, did I vote on that or didn't we? We did not. Okay, so now I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks. So we're down to 11D, minutes of closed meeting for approval. Peter got that? Go ahead.
I'll move approval of item 11D and 11E 1 and 2. Three
Those are-
sessions of in-camera minutes.
So approval of the minutes, closed session from May 2nd, and receipt of minutes from housing, April 19th, and municipal nonprofit also on April 19th. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Other business. Wherever I wrote that, I think Councillor Gregg already read his notice, and it comes up at the next meeting. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
Councillor Thomas, you've got OCBI. That's all covered off. Councillor Kepke, ATVs and seniors fair.
Thank you. Regarding ATVs on county roads and trails, I attended the public meeting held by the County of Grey on June the 9th regarding a request by various ATV clubs in the area to travel on portions of Grey County roads and trails throughout municipalities in Grey County. Particular interest to Owen Sound, controversy by members of the public were mainly focused on use of ATVs on the trails. So that would be the rail trails through Owen Sound. There's an 8-kilometer portion of the former CP Rail, now known as Grey Rail Trail, that does not currently allow ATVs. Portion of this trail comes through Owen Sound from the southeast entrance of the city to 20th Street East. Other areas being requested that are of interest to the city are county roads that run through the city of Owen Sound, being Gray Road 1, Gray Road 15, and Gray Road 5. It was explained that a staff report will be presented to Grey County Planning Committee on June 21st. A staff report will be presented to the Grey County Transportation Committee on June 23rd, and the minutes of these committees will be presented to Grey County Council at their July meeting, and hopefully they will come up with a recommendation at that time.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor McManaman?
And just, would it be appropriate for us to get a copy of those staff reports, just to make sure that it's in line with what we had intended?
Perhaps the deputy clerk could request that?
Through your worship, I will be following up with the county for all their reports on ATVs.
And sorry, just last, did you say the only trail part was the portion leading into the city up to 20th?
That's right.
Oh, thank you.
Because a portion of that is already approved by Grey County. But people, their main controversy was they run on the trail, they cycle on the trail, they ride horses, they cross-country ski. The trail is narrow in the winter for them to get over for a snowmobiler, let alone getting over for an ATV rider. And they felt the ATVs dug up the gravel for cyclists, so it wasn't comfortable riding your bicycle on those trails. So we'll see what happens there. My other item is the Seniors Fair, Your Worship. I attended that Seniors Fair, and it was, I extend sincere congratulations to United Way for pulling all of those vendors together, and it was certainly something that was very well attended, and lots of great presentations for people that needed some various services or different things that they could gain some knowledge about. They had some great workshops that day and lots of entertainment, so it was very well attended and well put together.
Good, thank you. Have we missed anybody? So I think it's down to me. I attended 2 or 3 different things last week. One was a Rotary convention. 200 to 250 people came to town from here south to London, west to Windsor and into Michigan, so people from all over, so that was kind of fun. They had speakers. Michael Dentot lives locally, but national writer. Yeah, first professional speaking, Larissa Yurkiw. She wasn't there when I was there. I got to have lunch with Chief Vern Root, too, who is also stepping down, isn't going to run again over at Saugeen, and he's done provincial stuff, national stuff, regional stuff, and is very accomplished and has really been a great representative in public life, and so it was kind of fun being with him. I also went to the Ontario Federation of ATV's annual meeting, which was here. There was approximately 75 people, 59 ATVs that went out for a run. It was very interesting listening to them talk because it is all about health and safety and having your equipment right and being trained and discounts for being trained and very much so. They travel all over the place. There's somebody from Ottawa, several people from Renfrew, Wasaga, Hamilton. They have 15 different clubs across the province that are part of the OF ATV, all working together to start to connect trails to go further and further across the province. That was interesting. We met Friday afternoon with the Honourable Bardish Chagger, Canadian Minister of Small Business and Tourism, so it was great to have a chance to talk to her about issues such as labor pools and training and connectivity and quick discussion on harbour. Although that doesn't exactly fall into small business, but he had the discussion with her. Very friendly. Her assistant is from Grey County, so that's always a plus to have somebody to be able to get in contact with. I'm sure we'll see her again. Oh, the interesting comment that she said, as I say that Harbour falls under Minister of Transportation, she talked about how they are trying to not have silos, so anything they discuss they're sharing with the other ministers and trying to have a flow through system and a little more open in their discussions, because there are often crossovers from one department to the other. So that was kind of interesting. Last thing on my list is, I'm not sure when the deadline is. Some of us are going to AMO in August. I think the deadline's coming up for delegations with ministers. We've just decided to go and talk to the Minister of Education. I'm wondering about infrastructure. Are there any others? We need to decide and get those meetings and go and talk to the ministers. Councillor Lemon?
One that I don't think the Minister of Transport's been sort of brought up to date on, and that is the lack of passing lanes on highways 6 and 10.
So that'd be transportation?
That'd be the Minister of Transportation. I think we should start saying, hey, there aren't passing lanes, and with the traffic levels you've got between Chatsworth and Owen Sound.
It's probably been a few years since probably Bill Murdoch took a good kick at Highway 6 being redone and 10. So transportation, infrastructure, education? Yep.
Just a question to the Director of Community Services. Do you feel there's been enough headway made with Phragmites since we met with the minister last year at AMO?
The county is working on, coordinating a response sort of countywide. I'm not aware that there's any provincial funding for Phragmites. That would go a long way. Certainly we could add that to the list if that's council's wish, but we are moving forward on that.
We did have that discussion and took Mayor Barfoot with us because he knows Wild Sherville a lot better than we do, and I'm not sure we'd be moving the ball forward a whole lot just a year later.
That's fine.
Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just recalling back to when we looked at those, a lot of the public comments we received during the service review, maybe the Minister of Labour might be interested about arbitration.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half, hasn't it? Yep. Everybody good with that? So that's 4. Yes, Flynn stayed in his position, yeah.
I'll just say that we do have that on our agenda for economic development this week to see whether the committee members have any issues that they think should go forward as well.
And what's their deadline?
I'll have to check that and get back to you, Your Worship.
Okay, good. So we'll get some more input. Great. Thank you. I think that covers all the other business. So motion that the committee rise and report.
Move by myself that the committee rise and report.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Formal session, resolution adopting.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McManaman, that the action taken committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given and other business be confirmed by this council.
All in favor? That is carried. Thanks. Notices of motion. Carolyn, this will be where it will come up next week?
That's correct.
Okay, so nothing tonight. New business by resolution, seeing no business, no new business. Bylaws, if you want to have a seat there, Peter, for a second.
Oh,
Do you want to do a
sorry.
run through?
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 10 bylaws on tonight's agenda. 1 bylaw to confirm the business of tonight's meeting. 3 facility use agreements to extend the agreement with the Owen Sound Junior Lacrosse Club, to approve the 41st Annual Summerfolk Music and Craft Festival, and to approve the annual Owen Sound Emancipation Festival. There is 1 bylaw to execute an acknowledgement and direction to effect the transfer of hazard lands to the city as required by a Committee of Adjustment decision. 1 bylaw to execute a Planning Act exemption for amendment to condominium declaration and description for condominium plan number 97. 1 bylaw to execute a site plan agreement with Quantum Properties Co. Inc. for property located at 1525 16th Street East. 1 bylaw to amend appointments of specially appointed bylaw enforcement officers at Heritage Place Mall. One bylaw to authorize an agreement with the South Bruce Peninsula ATV Club respecting off-road vehicles, which council may recall was a condition required prior to passing the off-road vehicles bylaw. And then finally, a bylaw to regulate the use of off-road vehicles in the city. I just want to note for council's information that if council passes this bylaw tonight, off-road vehicles will be permitted sunrise tomorrow. And I would just encourage anyone that would be riding an ATV, if council does pass this, to familiarize themselves with the regulations in the bylaw. We will be posting information on our website and providing information at City Hall, as well as the South Bruce Peninsula ATV Club will be supporting that information effort. So if the bylaw passes, please educate yourselves.
Okay, thank you. Just before you go, Councillor Lemon, I know that 17G, which is bylaw number 2016-0084, I have a pecuniary interest in that matter, so I won't be participating in the vote of that one. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McManaman, that bylaws numbers 2016-78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, and 87 be passed and enacted.
All in favor? That is carried. So that completes our business for tonight. We can adjourn at 9:30. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to having Arlene back in time for the playoffs. So Richard, when's your book launch? Is Saturday? 1:30 at Ginger Press? I'll try and get there. I've got something else I got to do, but that's going to need